Well, how's it going, everybody? Quite the game for Michigan State. I'm Joe Dandron. He's Eli McKown. We're with the State News, the two football writers for the State News, and kind of a quite the script flip for these two teams. Iowa coming off a 21-20 loss to Northwestern. Michigan State coming off a 27-24 victory over Michigan, who was ranked at the time, and who lost to Indiana tonight. Kind of a weird game. Iowa wins 49-7 at Kinnick Stadium. Michigan State, after they had won the previous three meetings against Iowa, they fall big in this one. I mean, that's the most points that Iowa has ever scored against Michigan State, according to Winsipedia.com from what I looked at. So, Eli, I mean, there's just no, I guess, great way to put it, right? I mean, it's a loss in every, I guess, sense of the word.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa, they dominated this football game. And it started at the line of scrimmage. This game was going to be about who could win the physical battle, who was going to win up front, and that was Iowa, both sides of the ball. Their offensive line, they created holes for the running backs that took the pressure off Spencer Petras in the backfield at quarterback. He was able to pick apart the Michigan State defense underneath a little bit. And the run game, like I said, I mean, I think they ran for, I don't remember the exact number off my head, but they were able to break off some big runs. And, and then on defense, I mean, they really got in Rocky Lombardi's face. And that was something Michigan was not able to do the week prior. And, that's just the way it happened. I mean, Rocky Lombardi couldn't get anything going on offense, a lot of pressure. He makes three big crucial mistakes in the first half that allow Iowa to get up 35-0. And that's the ball game. You can't win if you don't win at the line of scrimmage, and Iowa was able to do that today.
And the defensive line, they didn't, I'm looking at some of the numbers here. The average yard per attempt for Lombardi today was 5.8 yards. That might be on par with the season. But, I mean, what worked for them against Michigan, for Michigan State against Michigan, was the deep ball. Ricky White had 196 pass, receiving yards. Today, he had only had 22. He had one catch for 22 yards. It wasn't even that he was getting the ball more than that one. They didn't really take a lot of shots. I think maybe two of them, they were big connections to Jalen Naylor, who had a pretty good day. 4 catches for 119 yards. But, in general, this Michigan State offense just got, frankly, manhandled, especially along the front, on the offensive front. So, it's going to be interesting to see where does Michigan State go against here, because Indiana now, coming off a win against Michigan as the number 13 team in the country, might, by that time be vaulted into the top 10. And so, Eli, I guess and that's the weird part for me, where does Michigan State go from here?
I think if you're Michigan State, you got to get back to basics. I mean, they were able to, after the Rutgers game, they got back to basics. They shored up that offensive line. They played really well against, a Michigan defensive line that had a lot of talent. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson, guys like Quinny Pay, those are NFL guys, and they were able to hold them off. But you can't the following week just falter off of that, and they did. They couldn't stick to the fundamentals of what they needed to do in the interior, and they couldn't do that. If they want to win again, they got to play the way they win against Michigan State. The offensive line's got to protect Rocky Lombardi so he can have the opportunity to throw the ball. Because if you look at those 3 interceptions, the first one, pocket collapses, he spins out, he makes a bad throw, he should throw that one out of bounds. But either way, the offensive line doesn't give him any time to make an opportunity. And the same can be said for the second and third one, where he has to roll out of the pocket and he has to get rid of it. He didn't have any time to make his throws. So if they want to be able to do that, he has to be able to make his throws. And then also, we haven't seen it all season. Where's the run game for Michigan State? It hasn't been. Elijah Collins has been missing. He was nearly an 1,000-yard rusher last year. We haven't seen him very much at all. We still don't know why. Jordan Simmons seemingly has taken over the main rusher role, it seems like, running on the ground. He's had some flashes, but even then he doesn't get the bulk of the carries. We see a lot of Connor Hayward, who we didn't see a ton of today, by the way, which was also interesting of note. But we see him a lot, Connor Hayward, and a lot of the pass protection and then passing plays and things like that. But this is a running backcourt that has a lot of talent, and especially with Anthony Williams there, Brandon Wright, the backfield. These are guys that have a lot of talent, and there's a lot of running backs here who are capable.
But this Michigan State run game, 1.8 yards a carry. And I understand, the passing attack has early on looked like what works for MSU, but you can't win football games and you're only averaging 1.8 yards a carry. Because if you're Iowa, you come in and you look at the tape, the next team. If you're Indiana, I mean, you come in and look at the tape, you're going to see a run game that just has not been successful. So why would you sell out against the run?
If Michigan State wanted to win this game, they needed to get Spencer Petras. They needed to force him to make the plays to win. Mm-hmm. And he didn't have to. And even when he was in those throwing down situations, he had time. He had plenty of time to get the ball out and make good decisions. And for a young quarterback that struggled in 2 games, maybe didn't have his confidence up, that's what they needed to exploit, and they weren't able to do it.
Yeah, and then I think, kind of the next biggest talking point, is the other quarterback, Michigan State's Rocky Lombardi, 17-37, 227, 0 touchdowns after coming into the game with 6 total on the season and 3 interceptions. I mean, I know we touched on that a little bit, but he took a lot of the heat in the post game pressers, about this, saying, I've got to play better. I got to be better. And I think that, he understands that as someone who's a veteran on this team and frankly a leader. I think that Lombardi recognizes that. But, I mean, Peyton Thorne got time today. And Lombardi, there was an ESPN reporter saying on the broadcast that Lombardi was maybe had suffered a lower body injury. And there was a lot of throws that Lombardi tried to make where it looked like he was not getting the push from his lower body, which is a huge part of playing that position.
Lombardi has done a good job so far this season. He surpassed my expectations going forward for the season, especially in the Michigan game. He's had some issues turning the ball over. I think when you look at these turnovers that he's had, especially in those Rutgers games where I didn't think a lot of those turnovers were necessarily his fault, I think in this game he made some really bad decisions. But ultimately, the offensive line has to be able to protect him so he doesn't have to make those decisions. But a lot of people are giving him flack saying, well, maybe we should move to Peyton Thorne, or maybe they should move to Theo Day. But as soon as we see Peyton Thorne in there, he has a chance on fourth down. Tyler Hunt's open, running to the first down marker. He overthrows him. There is a reason Rocky Lombardi is starting right now, and it's pretty clear. They believe that he is the number one guy that they have in that room. The tight ends have been missing. Trenton Gilson got his first catch of the season today. They have been absolutely missing this season. So the tight ends, if Trenton Gilson's a guy who can get going, he's a matchup nightmare for defenses. If he can get going, get open, get into these pass game situations, it would make the pass game a lot more lethal for Rocky Lombardi and make him more comfortable. And again, the run game has to be better.
Like I said, so it's going to be interesting to see how Michigan State, matches up with Indiana next week. That game could be ugly just like this one if Michigan State doesn't make some changes this week in practice. So, and Indiana looks like a very good football team. Very, improved from last season, especially if Penix can stay healthy, which he was not for a good chunk of last season. I think this Indiana team could be very, very good when out there everything's all said and done. So like I said, I'm Joe Dandron. I think we're going to wrap it up here. Joe Dandron with the State News, Eli McKown. We're going to bring you guys some more football coverage the rest of the week. Go follow us on @the Snooze on Twitter, and you can find everything you have about MSU football on there as well.